What's up, everybody? It's your boy Al, and I'm super excited that you clicked the link and you're getting ready to tune into an amazing video. Someone dear to my heart. This young man, his name is Jonathan, and I got to have the honor of just watching him grow into the man that God is just calling him to be. And there was little wind issues, so kind of just bear with that. It was a lot of wind issues. I'm sorry for that. I pray the video blesses you. I pray that it connects to you. I pray that if you caught something, feel free to message me or leave a comment or whatever. Enjoy. Like, in your opinion, what would you say is something that you've observed about the men of this generation?
I mean, that's a pretty good question to start with. I mean, man, I think the major thing I've seen about manhood, bro, is that we kind of got it messed up in that I think the world has really informed the way that we look at manhood and the way that we look at, masculinity.
Right.
And I mean, it's cool, but there's such a lack of depth to it. And I think one of the major ways we've kind of messed that thing up is by abandoning like vulnerability and abandoning like the mindset of like actually being emotional and letting that be okay. I think we're taught that being strong means that you can never feel any kind of way about anything. You just got to keep on pushing and keep on moving. And that's why like male suicide rates are higher than women. You know what I'm saying? Men die just earlier on a general scale because we store so much inside and we're not taught that it's a healthy thing to let things out, you know?
Right. I think another aspect of that is like we have a lot of unfathered trying to be fathers. And there's no proper image of what it is. And then you're only left to the world to kind of mimic or copy.
Yeah, bro.
And I think that like even you bringing up just like the masculinity or the emotions or the vulnerability, it's like all that stuff is like, you talk about, like somebody was talking about just how fathers or just men period, how not only they're important to the family household and the family structure, but to the community. And I think that having men be men could literally change the world.
Yeah, man.
I think that's real.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, going forward, how do you feel like, let's say, in your life, what was your, in a sense, story when it comes to just finding out who you were as a man, and what was your image, in a sense, of a man, and how did you go about, coming to find yourself as a man?
I mean, I feel like everybody's first image of a man comes from their dad. And some people don't have their dads in their lives. I had mine, but we had kind of a tumultuous relationship for a long time. He had a lot of stuff he had to work out. Him and my mom were married and got divorced. It wasn't really a clean divorce, you know what I mean?
Right.
But because they're both believers, they did their best to like keep me and my sister out of it. But me and my dad had a lot of issues, man. And so I never really looked to him as an image of what a man should be. In a lot of ways, he was more of a picture for a long time of what I didn't want to be. And that's because I didn't understand him and we didn't talk about certain things. And, I was kind of afraid to do that. But as I was growing up, man, like, it would pretty much be whoever. I watch TV and you see different people. Like, when you're young, you watch like cartoons and you see like stuff like Power Rangers and you see characters in there fighting and doing the whole thing, and you think that's what manhood is. And then you grow up a little bit and you start listening to certain music and you see people who are popular like Chris Brown or, even rappers or whatever the case may be, and you see what the world presents as manhood. It's all centered around like being like machismo, being real, like big, being tough, being able to get a lot of girls, you know what I'm saying? Like having that attention, being able to get a bag, like providing money-wise. You know what I'm saying? Like we kind of centered that whole idea. So that's what I adopted. And growing up, I was real sensitive. I was a very emotional kid. And so a lot of times, like I would be told that I was effeminate and different things like that just because it was not a hard thing for me to cry.
Right.
And so for a long time, I taught myself to kind of abandon my emotions and like act like I didn't care about stuff, even though I did, because that's what I thought manhood was. You know what I mean? Like, be very like nonchalant about whatever. You don't care about anything unless it's gonna make you popular. You know what I'm saying? Like, being a man means you don't care about like school or whatever it might be. Like, what was cool was like being able to dress, you know what I'm saying? Like being able to bag girls, being able to get money, however it might be. And that sounds like the regular stuff, but it's real, man. Like, that's what they taught. Like, me and like my friends and everything like that. It was all about if you could, you know, have sex early, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what being a man was. If you could be the most popular kid in school, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you play sports even, I wasn't really a big sports kid, but I kind of forced myself to be, because if you ain't play basketball or you ain't play football, you wasn't a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I struggled with that for a while. And as I got older, it only took me really taking a look at myself, understanding myself, and then letting God, like, transform my view and taking me into the Word and giving me examples of men inside my life to kind of redirect that perspective and help me to understand the depths of what manhood really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. And let's stay on that. Like, when you were talking about how like God like kind of transformed your image, like, can you talk about like some of the things that you would say like God would like shine light on, or he would deal with you in certain areas to where it would like expose you to certain things, or just even shine light on certain things, and even like what was that process like?
Yeah. I think the first part of it really was kind of confronting just my relationship with my feelings. Like, a big thing I struggled with for a long time was anger. And I think that a lot of men are really angry, bro. Like, just angry. And I think that we associate anger to manhood. Another thing we talk about is if you could fight. You know what I'm saying? If you could fight, then you're a man. And if you can't, then you a bunch of words we probably shouldn't say. But at the end of the day, I mean, I kind of forced myself to not resolve things, because I thought that being angry made me tougher. You know what I'm saying? It kept me safe, it kept me protected. And, you know, there was a level of being a man that people think if people are afraid of you, that's a good thing. And I had to really wrestle with the fact that, like, it's not okay to be this angry. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not okay. And when God really started showing me love and the fact that I couldn't embrace it the way that I needed to because I was so angry, bro, like, God had to show me, like, that manhood is affectionate, bro. Manhood is a full, like, experience of the emotions. You're not supposed to be one or two emotions all the time. You're supposed to be sad sometimes. You're supposed to cry about things. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that is manhood just as much as, you know what I'm saying, playing basketball, or even more so. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a time where men lived and basketball didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of things that we associate with manhood now have nothing to do with it. They're only associated because this is the era that we're in, and these are the things that are available to us. But in a separate time, bro, like, this stuff didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think even generationally, like, from way back, man, like, violence and anger was a thing that we associated with manhood. Like, even in the scripture, man, in the Bible, like, you talk about the guys who were looked at as like the guys, they were always like warriors. They were men of war. And that's not a bad thing. But if we don't associate, if we stop associating war with anger, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're supposed to be warriors. We're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to get down if we need to. But that doesn't mean that we got to be angry. You know what I'm saying? So.
And you talked about like just that whole journey of like God showing you those things. So it's clearly important that you had a relationship with God. So talk to me about like the importance of having a relationship with God.
I mean, man, it's everything. Like, I mean, I could talk about it all day, but I think from a man's perspective, we don't have a model of how to be a man that's more succinct and more like clear and more like evident than Jesus. Like, we say stuff like that a lot in church, but when you really look at the scriptures, bro, like, Jesus was literally the ultimate picture of a man. And not even just Jesus, but a bunch of different biblical examples. The Bible gives us such a wealth of information about where to go and where not to go as a man, the things that you have to watch out for as a man, and the responsibility that manhood is as the head of a household. You know what I'm saying? And so relationship with God and having an understanding of God's purpose for you is the only way that you're going to understand how to be a man, because God literally created manhood. You know what I'm saying? He understands the purpose for it better than any one of us can. And so when we get a picture of his character and when we're trying to become more like him, then we're automatically going to become better men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think about the fruits of the Spirit, like the Amplified breaks that down in Galatians 5. The fruits of the Spirit is the results of God's presence within you, and all those things that is produced. One of them is self-control, and I think with men, I think self-control is probably one of the, I mean, besides, of course, love and all that other great stuff, but self-control is one of the things that I believe is so awesome for a man to achieve, or at least one fruit to be produced is self-control. And all the fruits kind of sum up themselves in one. But it's like, I think having that relationship with God, like you said, being able to be in it, literally like Christ. You literally, like, going back to a man for his, not only his household, but then his community and his world. Literally, like, Jesus was a world changer all by himself. And it's like, it's beautiful. And like, you talk about, like, you mentioned stuff like, you know, how they were saying things like, you know, men shouldn't go here or do certain things, or how to carry themselves. Like, what is one thing that you've learned growing into a man is that, like, if you could tell, like, a younger man growing up, like, if you were to be able to give him some advice, like, hey, you know, this may look good or this may look appealing, but this is something that you should stay away from.
I'll probably say, like, number one is watching your associations and your relationship to women. And not so much necessarily that you need to avoid them, but understanding God's purpose for women and really checking yourself with the way that you approach them, the way that you interact with them. I think as men, we're trained to spend every interaction with women trying to entice them in some kind of way.
That's good.
And when we start looking at women as God's creation and start trying to observe the beauty of God inside women, we learn how to treat them better. And we're literally taught as men to manipulate women and, you know, control them with behaviors and different things like that. And it creates this thing inside of us where we get hurt, man. A lot of people talk about how men hurt women, but we don't talk about how much hurt that does to us. There's so much damage that's done to our souls in the process of engaging in dysfunctional relationships with women and having improper perspectives of them, because we might do certain things, but then certain things could be done back to us. And there's damage that's done in that process. There's damage done to your own self-image and your own self-perspective because you don't understand how to treat a woman because you don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? And if I could give advice to a young man, other than investing in God and knowing who you are, I think it's majorly like, be careful about treating every woman not like as if she's your sister or as if she's your mother, but treating her like she's a child of God, and treating her as if she's valuable. And if you wouldn't do it to Jesus, then don't do it to her. You know what I mean? And understanding the place for that, and understanding what interactions with women are supposed to look like, what being respectful to women looks like, and empowering men to say that it is a manly act to respect women. You know what I'm saying? Like, and treating them with dignity, treating them with kindness, being chivalrous. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually, like, standing up and letting a woman sit down on the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like, stuff like that, we've abandoned. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for that, but when we can get back to a place of really honoring women, I think even in the body of Christ, bro, we use the fact that the man is the head of the household as an excuse to be domineering and to kind of suppress women. The Bible talks just as much about a man being the head of a household as it does about men serving women as well as women serving men. And we kind of abandon that part because one of the other things that's associated with manhood is ego. And we have a lot of pride, and we don't understand that the greatest act that a man can do is laying down his own self-will. The Bible says, man, greater love hath no man than this. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, that applies to women as well. But I think God was integral and specific about applying that to men, because we have to lay our lives down. You know what I mean? We have to submit to something or someone. And I think the first place to do that is God. And then in the proper context, submitting our will to the women inside of our lives and saying like, we might want something from you, we might need something, but making sure that we're serving you above trying to get something from you. You know what I mean?
And I think even like what you're saying, like being the head or being any type of leader, what I'm really recognizing is there's nothing, no one has a problem with following a good leader.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? And I think this whole confusion about even a man being the leader, like I know a lot of young ladies will say things like, I don't need no man to lead me, or I don't, but the reality is it's not something about what you need, or it's not saying that, you know, a woman cannot do anything else. Like my mom is a single mother, you know what I'm saying? And because grace is sufficient, my mom has carried out being a single mother well. Would she have done it even better with a dad? That'd have been awesome, but it's like God still provided and he still came through for her as a single woman. But it's like when someone, whoever you're following after, if they're a great leader, you have no complaints. You have nothing to be upset about because they're a great leader. That's just the reality of it all. And it's like one of the things, like going back to what you're saying, like how treating women like they're God's creation. One of the main, like when God began to work on my life when it came to just dealing with women, one of the main things he's made clear to me is son, she's my daughter. You know, that's my daughter. And all that's really said to me after everything else is just like, if you start from there, like this is God's daughter, I can't treat her any type of way. And being that I'm someone who says, you know, I'm God's child, and it's like, okay, if I'm expecting God to move on my behalf when it comes to people who are against me, what do I expect if I'm going to do something against his daughter? And it's like, I think that's so important when you view it that way, because, you know, the reality is they are God's daughter. And it's like, starting there, that's their first and foremost identity, no matter what they've done, no matter where they've been. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when it comes to how we, you know, unfortunately men sometimes degrade women, or even women degrade women, whatever it is, it's like the word choice that we use depending on someone's past or their lifestyle. The reality is, no matter what they've done, where they've been, they're God's daughter. And once you stay at that level, you have to, once you work up from there, it's like certain things have to go. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's important.
We look at women a certain way and we treat women a certain way, but we don't understand that the way that we treat women is really a reflection of what we believe about ourselves.
Exactly right.
We have like a horrible issue with self-image, and a lot of men carry around a lot of rejection. And so we treat women from that lens, and we either are doing a lot of things to get their acceptance, or we treat them as if they don't mean nothing, and we discard them because we don't understand our value. And when you have a true revelation of who you are, man, and what you deserve, you don't just only not settle for that inside yourself. You literally make it your mission to make sure everyone gets that same kind of treatment. So when you get a revelation of who God is, and when God deals with your heart about what you're worth, then it's impossible for you to treat people underneath their value, because you understand that God's placed the same amount of worth inside of her or him than he has inside of you. You know what I mean? And it's impossible for you to improperly love when you've been loved by God. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's good. And that reminds me, I remember it was a season in my life where I was just so overwhelmed with sin, like of my own life, and just the voids that God would expose me. Just sitting there in a place where I was like, God, like how do you view me? Like I'm so evil, I'm so messed up, I'm so broken, I'm so just everything. And it's like, literally, like he would just embrace me and just literally validate me and let me know that not only am I his son, but he would call me his heir. And how we know that we are children of God and the heir to his kingdom. It's like in that moment I realized like God really loves me. And my only response after that was, I have to show somebody else this love. And literally the scripture came alive to me. You know, you have to love God with your mind, heart, soul, body, strength. You know, this is literally your duty, but it's like, it's only there can you love others. You can't, until you get that reality of his love, you can only love others. And it's like, it's just embracing that. Like I can only show somebody, there's no way I'm loved this much. I have to show somebody else. And it's like, but that's what frees people. That's what breaks chains. And it's like, that's real. Like getting that revelation of who God is, it all starts, and it makes more sense why God is literally saying, love me first. Get to know me first. And then the second thing that's just as important is loving others. And you can only do the second thing with the first. So I think that's powerful. And that's powerful. Just to continue, I think to just even wrap up, one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about was just like, I feel like men don't talk enough about their struggles with lust. And like for example, I want to frame this in a certain way. I think that like one of the things that I really even learning as a man growing is like, it's not an issue to desire a woman, but it's how you go about that desire. That literally, you know, that's where it shows up. And I think, you know, I feel like there's so much stuff that isn't talked about, which leaves a man to himself.
Yeah.
Kind of trying to figure out what's going on, how he should go about it, and some even the issues he may be facing. But talk to me a little bit about lust, or maybe like even your journey as a man and your encounters with lust and stuff like that.
Well, listen, bro, like, honestly, in our generation, manhood and lust are almost regarded as synonymous. Like, if you're not moving, whatever the case may be, and doing certain things with women, then you're not a man. And coming into a picture of who God was, one of the hardest things to lay down, bro, was how I dealt with women. And it wasn't necessarily in terms of respect, because I was always respectful, but in terms of like engagement with women on a sexual level, like just being very transparent, bro. Like, when I really started laying down my life for God and really like started submitting to him, I was very much far from a virgin. You know what I mean? I had done a bunch of different things, and trying to walk with God and stay chaste, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was difficult, bro. Even being talented and having gifts, it creates an environment where that kind of thing is invited. And I think my struggle with lust was that, if I'm honest, like I could have just said, oh yeah, I like sex, I like girls, whatever the case may be. But if I'm really honest, there's a level of validation that I was looking for in whoever it might be from the acts that I was doing.
That's good.
I think that every human being, and I think this is part of the reason why men have such a hard time engaging a holistic view of manhood, is that every human being desires intimacy. Every human being desires vulnerability. But when you separate intimacy and vulnerability from emotion, then all you have is sex. You get what I'm saying?
That's good.
And literally the act of sex is being naked before somebody. And we don't understand that's something that's beautiful, and it's something that has its place. But if we don't understand vulnerability, if we don't understand intimacy, then we don't even need to be worried about sex. You know what I mean? Because sex without intimacy and vulnerability becomes animalistic. You know what I'm saying? It becomes perverse, because that is literally the most intimate thing that you can do with a human being. And when you don't have a picture of intimacy with God, you abuse intimacy with everybody else. And you literally do things to fill voids on the inside of you. There's a whole perspective, man, that sex is this thing that we use to kind of like deal with stuff. Like, we as men, like we do a lot to try to get women to do things with us. You know what I'm saying? We spend, honestly, I think it was J. Cole who said something like, I can't really quote it the way he said it, but he said if men spent half the time that they spend chasing girls as they did into pursuing a craft, then a lot of people would be famous and rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, we spend so much of our energy, so much of our time trying to pursue this thing, and not even pursuing women, pursuing their bodies. You know what I'm saying? Like, and pursuing that minimal satisfaction that comes inside that moment. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, like, we know that stuff is empty. We do it because we're searching for something that we don't believe we can find, and we think that this is the best that we're gonna get. You know what I mean? And when we have a picture and we encounter love, like the love that Jesus has, bro, then you understand that this is only really, sex is a means to an end, bro. Sex is a picture of God's love and the intimacy between God and man. It's only a physical representation of that, and put in its proper place, you can see God through it. You know what I mean? And so really separating myself from lust, bro, it was a journey, man. I, like, transparently, bro, like, serving in ministry and not having dealt with my lust issues, having to be sat down from ministry at different points because I couldn't get my stuff together. I didn't realize that it wasn't just the issue of lust. It was an issue of rejection, bro.
That's good.
I was running from things. I was running from my issues with my father. I was even running from issues with my mother, and issues with women, abusive relationships and dysfunctional, toxic relationships I was in throughout my life, man. I was running and spending so much time invested in that, because that was the only picture of safety that I ever knew. You know what I mean? Like, I would have never said that out of my mouth when I was doing all that stuff. But when I really look at it, I was searching for safety. I was searching for a place to not be judged. And in a moment like that, it's completely free of judgment. You know what I'm saying? And even though it's a perverse version of that, we all seek to be in relationship with somebody that goes past our flaws, that goes past whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're in that kind of moment with somebody, they're gonna call you beautiful, even if they don't mean it. You know what I'm saying? Just because that moment is so precious and it's so intimate that you wouldn't say something like that to discard that moment.
Right.
And I think when we look at sex and we look at why we want sex and we separate those two different things and say, we want sex because we have a desire for vulnerability. We have a desire for intimacy. We love loving people. And we can see how those things are good. But when they're channeled through rejection, when they're channeled through hurt, when they're channeled through undealt with issues, you know what I'm saying? Then it produces a perverse version of what God created. And so my journey kind of getting out of that, bro, it was really just saying like, I have to let God love me. If I don't let God love me, you know what I'm saying? Because God wants to. But if I don't let him, then I'm going to end up tearing up my life. One of the reasons why I strayed away from ministry, I just accepted the call in my life like basically like the other day, you know what I'm saying? And I've been prophesied to and spoke to my entire life about having a call. And the reason why I had conversations with God before I even knew what having conversations with God was, and I would tell him like, bro, like I'm not going to disrespect your call. So I'm not ready, so I'm going to stay away. I didn't understand that you need him to get ready. But once I accepted it, I was doing things that I hadn't learned how to let go of stuff. And I felt so vile. I felt so disgusting because I was like, all these people that I look at and I ridicule and judge for being in positions of power and not upholding to what they say they believe, man. And then I became everything that I resented. You know what I mean? Right. And in a way, it was a difficult moment, but it was powerful because God dealt with me. And it was a twofold thing. It was one, you literally have no place to judge or ridicule or persecute anyone ever. You know what I'm saying? Literally, without grace, we are Saul before he was Paul. You know what I'm saying? Without grace, we are the picture of anything disgusting, anything inhumane, anything vile. Grace is the only avenue that we have changed, that we have wholeness and freedom. But then on another end, it was a picture to say like, you know God and you love him, but you don't trust him. You know what I'm saying? And understanding that trusting God is saying that you're not going to do me like other people did me throughout my life, so I can trust that your will is better than my own. I've not stopped wanting to have sex, you know what I'm saying? But what I've had to do on a daily basis is crucify my flesh. And crucifying my flesh isn't necessarily saying, it's not so much just beating yourself up. It's taking yourself, even before you go to the cross, bro, it's taking yourself to Gethsemane and saying, not my will, you know what I'm saying, but yours be done. When it's his will above yours, then walking that road, you know what I'm saying, walking that Golgotha road or walking that road to whatever persecution you're going to get, whatever things that you have to deny yourself, it becomes worth it when you understand that his will is so much better than yours. You know what I'm saying? And you can only get that when you allow him to love you, bro. And so that's really what I say, man. Like, lust is an issue of not knowing how to engage the love of God. You know?
That's good. And also, like, one of the things when God deals with me with lust and just that message of lust or the issue of lust or the sin of lust is like, one of the things lust will do to you, it literally will destroy your image of what intimacy looks like.
Yeah, man.
Like, people are pursuing people that they think, you know, is for them, but it's all out of the lens of lust, and it's unfortunate. That's why people are left empty. People are left unfulfilled, still broken, and then also, again, back to things, people are just filling voids.
Yeah, man.
And one of the things that's so special about lust is, watch this, was crazy. One of the things God was showing me was simply pursuing somebody out of his timing is lust. Because whatever is sin can never be love. And so many times people pursue people out of lust and out of voids and out of brokenness and out of their issues. And they get these emotional feelings because we need the intimacy and we need the transparency and we need all of that. You know, we were built for relationships. So when we're experiencing all these feelings, we start thinking, well, maybe I'm in love. It was never love. If it began in sin, it can never become love. And that is crazy because a lot of people are in relationships that they pursued out of brokenness. And they're expecting these people to fill them, and when they can't be filled, they're left empty. And people are, you know, it's a sad thing, but again, it's that lens that people look through. It's lust, and just simply moving out of God's will to pursue another person. It's automatically lust. It can never be love. You didn't do that out of love, and that's why, again, becoming healed, knowing Him first, so that way you can love. It's so crucial and important. Like, even back to relationships, like I kind of talked about this in the video. It's like, it isn't two broken people coming together. It isn't one broken person coming together with a whole person. It isn't a half whole. It's two whole people coming together. Yeah. It's the work of God being produced and happening in two people's lives, and they coming together as one. Yeah. You know, and that's very powerful. And one of the things is, again, we're seeing people who are moving out of their own brokenness, their issues, and their rejection. That's a lot of people. I think, you know, a lot of people think they're exempt from these things. Everybody has issues, and and it shows up in, you know, most of the way we love or receive love. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, people are like, whether they're searching for validation, affirmation, or time or support, and it's like, some of these people are searching for things that they never got. So it becomes this endless chase of like, I need, and then you're left unfulfilled, and people are literally in the same cycle. And I think lust is one of those things, again, like we talked about earlier, it's one of those sins that you have to, not in a sense, from the aspect of avoid, no, you can't welcome that. And that some things come upon you when you're young and you have no control over it. But there comes a place in your life where, like you said, you know, you're trying to diet yourself. You're crucifying your flesh. And it's like, you have that moment where it's like, literally, I always say lust is one of those sins where it's like, you're faced with temporary pleasure. Yeah, man. And it's unfortunate, and a lot of people won't even testify to this, that you're in a situation where you're finding yourself say, I want this more than God. Yeah. And it's very hard to hear yourself say that, and a lot of people can't even be open about that. Like, even in their time with God, they can't even confess that. But it's like, literally, without even saying it, what you're really saying is you want this more over God. And it's like, you have to come to a place where literally you have to literally say, what do I want more? And it's like, when you're asking yourself that, don't think about the climax of the temporary pleasure, but the results after. Are you really okay with the temporary love, the endless, that, like Galatians 5 and MSG, the endless grasp for happiness, uncontrollable addictions, and like that sad life, you like how empty you feel after not being able to feel something that you've been trying to feel. Are you really okay with a life like that? And when you ask yourself that question, and you know you don't want to live like that, you're faced with this, okay, well then, Father, I need you to heal me, I need you to set me free. And that takes time and people around you to help you walk through some of the issues. Because again, I know that wasn't on your own. You found out some of your rejection issues, and like a lot of us, like, you know what I'm saying, like me, my walk with God, it was like, you know, there were some things in the secret place He will reveal to me, son, you're moving out of a void, you're moving out of this and that, and help me kind of even tie it back where it came from, and most of which came from my Father. And I believe just even addressing those things, and as God's progressively changing me, one of the prayers I used to always pray growing up was, Father, renew my mind and help me to view women, intimacy, and all of that through your lens. Because my lens is corrupted, it's been polluted, it's been degraded, it's been, you know, just everything because of what I went through. And then, you know, we pick up on this identity because of our voids. And we try to do everything that corresponds with that identity. So whatever fits this identity, me in the world, I'm gonna do that. So if being a man is having a girl, let me add that to my identity. It's like, you literally have to be cut down when it comes to God. And it's like, a lot of people, I believe that's one of the main things that's crippling our generation, is a lot of us are taking our old identities, our brokenness, all of our issues that we used to be, and we created this person, you know, whether it's, I don't want to be hurt no more, so I got to be tough. I don't want this to happen, so I got to do this. And we become this person, and we go, okay, God, bless this. And He's like, no, I'm going to bless you.
But I'm going to bless who I created.
But I'm going to bless who I created. And we're literally pursuing things that we were never designed to pursue, but all out of voids. That's who we became. And literally what's crippling the body of Christ is there are people who are pursuing God, asking God to bless who they weren't created to be. And He's saying, listen, a good tree produces good fruit. A bad tree produces bad fruit. And a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. That's the word. So in order for a bad tree to produce good fruit, you have to cut down that tree. You have to start over. And it's like, I always tease young ladies. I say, you know, if you have a dead hair, what do? You cut it off. Just cut that dead end off. But if the whole hair is dead, you got to cut the whole hair off. And you can label all the cutest hashtags you want, the big chop, you know, healthy hair journey. But the reality is, what you're saying is, my hair is unhealthy. My hair is dead. It's not producing. So I have to start over.
That's so good.
And what God calls us to do is, listen, I need to change this, so we're going to start over. I'm bringing you back to where you were just soil. Plant the right seeds, get the right roots, grow those roots deeper, grow till your branches begin to bloom, and then fruit can be produced. But there's a process that takes place that's crippling for people, because this idea that our generation starting over isn't cool. No one wants to start over. It's like, oh, but I got so far. It's like, there's nothing wrong with starting over. I always say, if you take out your iPhone, if your iPhone's not working, the first thing they tell you is, did you restart it? Did you just turn it off and turn it back on? Did you just start over? And it's like, when you take your iPhone out, you start all over, you turns back on. It doesn't take that long. Doesn't take that long to turn it back on.
Yeah.
It works faster.
Those little 10 seconds can feel like forever.
It feels like forever, but once it's done, your phone's faster, it's clear, it's quicker, and it's like you didn't lose none of the apps on it. You're still you're still intact. You didn't lose the memory. You didn't lose anything in the process, and not much time went by.
Yeah.
But the longer you wait to start over, then that's when you start to delay. But it's like restart.
Yeah, man.
So many people are literally, they're so afraid to just let God expose certain things about them, because I always say God's confrontational. Once you get to that secret place, He's gonna speak to you.
That's so good,
you know
bro.
What I'm saying?
We talk about this all the time, man. You know that the whole song "Reckless Love," the song's so popular right now, and I talk to people all the time. I'm like, you guys really don't get what these lyrics are saying.
Yeah.
Like that whole bridge part, I think he says like, there's no shadow you will light up, no mountain you won't climb up. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down. And we don't recognize that that's an extremely aggressive, confrontational love. It's not laid back, you know what I'm saying? It's not just, happenstance kind of love. It's literally, I will tear up the entire earth to make sure that you're okay. And a lot of times, I tell people all the time, a lot of the mountains that he has to climb up are mountains that we built.
That's
a lot of the walls that he has to kick down are walls that we built.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that God's love is so that he will save us even from ourselves.
Yeah.
He'll tear up our entire lives just to make sure that he can get us in the place that we need to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people look at God and say, is that a merciful God? Is that a God that really loves? And I say, like, if I'm walking in the street and you see me and a car's about to come, I wouldn't want you to be polite and say, hey, please get out of the street. I don't care if you break my arm, man. Grab me out of that street, because I'd rather have a broken arm than be dead.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
Exactly
and when we look at God's love to say, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. If I got to break you a little bit more to help you deal with what's on the inside of you, then that's what I'm going to do. And that might be the means, because a lot of times we stubborn when it comes to God. But sometimes he has to do something. He has to break our hip. You know what I'm saying? He has to do something to let us know, like, that my love is better than whatever you're gonna try to get for yourself. Yeah. I say to people all the time, man, like, with love and lust or whatever else it might be, there's two different philosophies that I have, and they depend on whether you've accepted this walk or not. I can't talk to people who don't know who Jesus is about what to do with their bodies. You know what I'm saying? Outside of Jesus, bro, what's wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? Doing all this stuff. What's wrong with me settling for this fraction of love? Right. You know what I mean? Because without him, there is nothing better. Right. This is the eclipse. Right. This is the highest point that I can get to.
That's good.
But once I can reveal to somebody the reality and the truth of God's love, then we can deal with all that stuff after. So I feel like for the church, for those of us who are Christians and we're dealing with non-saved people who have their philosophies about sex and have their philosophies about whatever, we cannot deal with people from a Christian perspective until they embrace the Christ of that perspective. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because what is the reason for me submitting my will to a God I don't believe in? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to help you to understand who this God is, and then I can help you understand why his way is better than ours. You know what I mean? Because exactly, it's introducing yourself to this person. You're not gonna marry yourself to somebody you've never met. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? I gotta introduce you to this person. You gotta go on a couple of dates with this person and make the decision that you want to dedicate your life to that person. I'm not gonna make you do things for me as a woman. If I'm dating a girl, you don't have a responsibility to cook my meals. You don't have the responsibility to help pay for things inside my house until I commit myself to you for life. Then we discuss what those responsibilities are. And it may not necessarily be cooking. It might not necessarily be bills. It might not be cleaning, whatever it is. But whatever covenant we agree to, whatever promises that we make are built on the establishment of marriage when we commit ourselves to that thing for life. And so if a person hasn't committed themselves to the God that we serve, we can't hold them to that standard. Yeah. We have to hold them to the standard of saying, we need you to embrace this God. And once you embrace this God, we can talk about your habits. We can talk about your addictions. We can talk about your perspectives. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it might be. But until you embrace Calvary, there's no reason to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is no greater good other than that. So I think an advice to church people is just to say, like, when we teach people about love, the best way that we can do it is display it.
Yeah.
And show
That's
people
exactly
what true love is.
That's exactly right.
Introduce them to love by introducing them to God, and then we show them how to walk this thing out on a practical level. You know what I'm saying? I think we've gotten things out of order.
Right.
I can't tell you to do anything until you understand that what you're doing is sin. And the only way that you can understand what you're doing is sin is when you understand perfection.
Exactly
and you get
right.
perfection by embracing him. You know what I mean?
That's
So
powerful.
our message is Jesus, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we can't keep trying to give everybody everything else and not give them that.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it is meaningless without it, you know?
Yeah, and I did, like you said, Jesus is, he is. And I always say, like, when I love that I am,
Yeah, man.
I am. It's like one of the things that I've learned is God is whoever I need him to be. He is, and he's not to be limited. Like and what's so beautiful, I think, about who he is, you know, one thing you really can't lose on this side.
Yeah, man.
It truly is the winning side, and it's scary how, like, you talk about a God who, like we talk about reckless love, who will do whatever it takes.
Yeah, man.
And sometimes we even confuse what he's doing is against us, but we, like you said, we built up certain walls. So when he breaks it down, we think he's against us, but he's not. It's out of love. But it's like, I'm in awe of how much God loves me and people. And one of my hopes is, and what encourages me for others is God was in constant pursuit after me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of times, like, I think there's a dilemma of, you know, time is running out. And then you're like, well, what about this person? And it's like, but then you love people. My pastor always taught me, if the best thing you can do for somebody is take your life, cut it up in bits and pieces, baby feed. You know, sometimes I feel like we dump so much on people, and it's like, listen, that's not how you got saved. That's not how you met Christ. That's not how I was in. God met me with love. You know what I'm saying? And that thing won me. You know what I'm saying? Like, all that I've done to constantly see him say, "You're still mine."
Yeah, man.
That's what got me to my face and said, okay, what do you want me to do? And him to simply say, just spend time with me and get to know me.
Exactly.
And then and it's special because he's like, okay, I worked against you. I did all things that you didn't like. I blatantly disrespect you. Not only do you clean me up, but then you say, now I want you to join me in what I do. I want to use you. I want you a part of my team.
Yeah.
It's like, it's truly reckless love.
That's so good, bro.
I think, thanks, bro. You already, like,
I appreciate it.
It's one of those things where this is needed. We had a good talk.
Yeah, bro.
My boy Con right here. Nelson. My boy Nelson here. Y'all ready? I'm thankful for you guys.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. This is good talk, bro.
He's good.
We gotta do this more often, man.
Yeah.
This is good.